Having said all this, let's move on to this talk. Even today, we heard a lot of things, people talking about 6 months, 12 months, 9 months of anti-tuberculous treatment, and there is no clear consensus as to what is the point at which we can stop AKT. We all agree that the goal of anti-tubercular treatment is to eradicate infection, and we also agree that anti-tuberculous treatment is what helps you to eradicate the infection. But over the years, there has been controversy about the drug regime, the drug dosage, and the drug duration. A lot of this has now been resolved, because we are now, WHO has given us a 4-drug regime as the primary regime. Drug dosage, as ABHAY and before that Siddhant emphasized, has to be as per the body weight. So that part is already resolved. But what is not resolved is the duration. So let's have a show of hands here. How many people give for any osteoarticular TB in your practice 6 months of AKT over here? 6 months. There, you've got one person there. Anybody else? No. 9 months? How many give for 9 to 10 months? So there you have about 3, 4. How many give for 12 months? Another 50% of the audience. 18 months? 18 months, I see a few hands who go up for 18 months too. And anything more, 24 or 36 months routinely? For MDR, no, I'm talking about primary drug. So this is essentially what I saw when I went for a conference, the Indian Orthopaedic Association conference a few years back, when Dr. Rajshekharan asked a packed audience of about 1200 delegates, and Rajshekharan asked them, and he had 25% saying 6 months, another 25 to 30% saying 9 months, about 50% saying 1 year, and then there were people even up to 5 years who were giving AKT for 5 years. There is somebody mentioned this, okay, how do we decide about stopping AKT? So there is this paper which has come from CMC Vellore, and they actually did a study where after 9 months of AKT, when this patient showed clinical improvement, they stopped AKT on the basis of clinical improvement. An MRI was done at that time, and they found that about 9% of these patients still had epidural abscesses. 18% had paravertebral abscesses, 25% had intraosseous abscesses, and a fair number had still persistent bone marrow edema even on contrast MRIs. They, however, based on the clinical and radiological improvement, they stopped AKT. And all these patients went on to show complete resolution of infection in 34 months. So this is what they found. This was day 0. This is at the end of 9 months. You could see that there was some fatty marrow this thing. Is this working? No, I can't. Okay, so then you can see by now bone marrow edema has gone down, but there is still some edema at the posterior border of the vertebral body, and there you are at 34 months, it has completely resolved. So they said that contrast enhancement may persist after cure. Clinical correlation is absolutely mandatory and should decide the duration of AKT. WHO and national TB guidelines today recommend fixed duration. They recommend that you give it 2 months plus or 7 to 10 months, and persistent MRI abnormalities do not always mean an active disease. But there is a more recent paper, something that ABHAY alluded to in his talk about PET scans, etc., where they said that AKT must be stopped only after evidence of disease healing either on contrast MRIs or FDG PET scan, or both. In their study, the mean duration of healing was 20 months, and therefore AKT was continued for these patients all the way up to 12. They first did an MRI at 12 months. If the contrast CT or FDG PET showed persistence of activity, then they continued for 3 months, and they kept on repeating these tests until they became negative. Duration of AKT, they said, must be individualized. The problem with determining the end point of AKT is that there is no single definitive marker for cure. persistence of deformity and neurologic deficit is there in spite of cure. Hematological markers are very, very non-specific. Radiological healing is slow, and there is a huge discordance between clinical, hematological and radiological improvement. And therefore the consequence is there can be a risk of over-treatment, which results in side effects, resistance, cost, or premature cessation, which causes residual disease, recrudescence, recurrence, resistance. The clinical parameters which we most commonly use, typically what I find patients say, the first thing they tell me is, sir, I am feeling better. What is better? We don't know. They have a feeling of well-being. Then they start getting weight gain, fever goes down. Subsequently, the pain keeps going down, and there is a reduction in the size of cold abscesses and healing of discharging sinuses. There is usually an improvement in function and in activities of daily living. Remember that persistence of deformity or neurologic deficit is not an indicator of persistence of infection. On hematological parameters, there may be an improvement in hemoglobin because patient's infection is coming under control. You may have relative lymphocytosis, normalization of ESR and CRP. But remember that do not give too much importance. Any obese patient, in our country, a lot of other patients have a generally slightly higher ESR, and that until the ESR comes back to normal, I cannot keep on giving AKT. X-ray parameters, remineralization and reappearance of bony trabeculae. Sharpening of the vertebral end plates, sclerosis of the vertebral body and the end plates, usually by about 4 to 5 months you start seeing that. Fusion of the vertebral bodies is seen in only about 50% of patients, and typically in paradiscal lesions. You will not find it in central body lesions that commonly. And there may be a reduction in size of the paravertebral shadows. As mentioned by Abhay, increased bone destruction or increase in the size of the paravertebral abscesses in the first 2 months of AKT is very, very common. Look for clinical improvement because clinical improvement predates radiological improvement. Finally, what is now becoming more and more popular is the MRI parameters. On MRI, what you will find is there is a decrease in the inflammatory bone edema. So on the T2, hyperintensity signal goes down. There is a decrease in the contrast enhancement within the soft tissues, seen within the first few weeks to months, as soon as that. There is a decrease in the size of the paravertebral and epidural abscesses and granulation tissue. And finally, there is a fatty marrow replacement on both T1 and T2, which is seen in about 40% of patients at 6 months and 75% at 1 year. A recent study by Biswas et al. Coming from the Park Hospital, Calcutta, they identified 6 different features which they could identify out of 14 parameters they studied. And they suggested these were the 6 parameters which showed the best change in patients who healed tuberculosis and which helped you to stop AKT. Paravertebral abscesses as seen on a STIR sagittal, cord compression as seen on a T2 axial, paravertebral granulations, and epidural space involvement. They gave a score of 0, 1, 2 to each of these 6 imaging findings. And if the score at the end was less than 6 out of 12 at 1 year, then it was a fairly good predictor of healing. PET scan, as Abhay said, again, it is a very, very big thing from the Safdarjung Hospital in New Delhi, but not really accepted all around. It helps to evaluate the metabolic activity in the lesion. It tells you if there is an active lesion, there is a high FDG uptake. And if the healing occurs, then the FDG PET scan uptake goes down with time. So to conclude, there is no single gold standard for endpoint determination. Even today, it is difficult. The clinical response of the patient is your primary indicator. Radiology and labs are supportive tools. MRI is highly sensitive, and the absence of complete resolution on MRI should not be an indicator to keep on continuing anti-tuberculous drugs. So avoid unnecessary prolongation of therapy. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for sir?